Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, today we are in Claremont, New Hampshire at the infamous Arrowhead Recreation Area. Recently, Max and Dante and I took a drive up there on a little weekend trip. Shout out to Rancho Viejo, which is a banging Mexican restaurant there. Unfortunately, this town is pretty small and doesn't have a whole lot going on, but Arrowhead Recreation Area sure does in terms of mountain bike trails. This place is insane, and for us coming from Long Island, where we don't usually get much in the terms of descent, this place really tested our skills considering how wet it was recently. The routes in here were absolutely lethal, and I actually forgot my GoPro, so that's why we've got Max's GoPro for the footage today. Luckily, Max actually rode a lot better than me, so it'll turn out better for you guys, but it is a little bit shaky. It was surprisingly dark under these trees, but needless to say, we're going to jump into some of the trails we rode, and I think it'll be pretty cool to see more normal people ride it. You may have seen Skills with Phil ride it. He's insane. We're not. You're just going to have to get used to it, see what it's like for an average person at this awesome trail system.
Wow, look at all slow and the braking bumps. Oh my god.
So after the first climb, we decided to take Fistful of Cake down. This is a blue trail, about a mile long. Has a little bit of a climb to the top, but it's a really fun way to warm up. Still has some pretty challenging stuff. I think it would be definitely categorized as a black elsewhere. But I'll be honest, when we pulled up to the parking lot, felt a little intimidated. Everyone here running Fox 38, RockShox Zeb, full-on enduro bikes, and me with my Nolly Fugitive and spindly little Fox 34 stanchions. I was feeling a little scared, not gonna lie, but you know, taking it slow, warming up, and that's what we did with this first trail. Now we're on to a skid mark, which was one of the next blue trails on the list. And as we worked our way through the list, it became pretty apparent that this place really needs time to work your way through. You're looking at 11 trails off the top of the mountain, so if you even want to get 2 runs on each trail, you're looking at 10,000 feet. So no wonder a lot of people in the parking lot were on e-bikes, or it's worthwhile to spend 2 days here if you really want to get to know these trails and feel comfortable. I know given these conditions and my own personal skill level, I could not ride here without picking my way down very carefully. I would highly suggest a pre-ride, re-ride, free ride mentality here, because these corners can be very awkward. There are so many roots and rocks that are in places you don't expect, and it's awesome. It really makes for a challenging ride. Blue trails are definitely challenging, and the blacks are seriously engaging, and we didn't even touch the dull blacks because the conditions were terrifying and our legs were already getting tired. It's no wonder that this place is an ESC venue. I mean, it definitely attracts an enduro racer to train here, and for anyone who's trying to push their downhill progression, it's a sick trail system to try. For us, it's about 4.5 hour drive from Long Island, so really not too bad. And honestly, it's pretty much on our way up to Kingdom Trails, so for anyone who's trying to get a little bit more of an intense ride in, even if you do your annual trip up to Kingdom, you could stop here on your way up or on your way down. It's right off I-91 pretty much, so it's kind of convenient for a lot of us northeastern folks who are going up to Vermont anyway. For me, I'm always super impressed by these small towns who are able to make a significant effort towards including and increasing highly progressive mountain bike trail systems in their regions. You know, Project Northeast, the YouTube channel, they talk about how difficult it is to increase the progression available in their mountain bike trail systems. A lot of the Northeast is stuck in a more XC focused trail building style, and you know, that's still great to have, and it's nice to do an after work ride and not think you're gonna die, but you know, it's also sweet to have something more serious like this where you can really focus on your skills and improve, practice for races. And you know, this is a 500-foot hill. It's super well contained within a small hilltop. It really doesn't take up that much room. You know, you have a dedicated volunteer trail crew that, you know, people love making this place better. And I think it sheds a light on how you don't need a freaking gigantic mountain to make something great. And there are so many places in the Northeast, in New York, in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, Massachusetts, where there are 500-foot hills that, you know, have insane rocks, great dirt, interesting terrain, and it just takes some bureaucratic power, some volunteer effort, and, you know, a cohesive movement towards changing the kinds of trails that people want in their region. You know, I'm not saying every place is going to be like this. It's not. It's going to be very difficult for super beginner people to pull up here and have a good time. It's difficult, but it really elevates the whole reason for people wanting to ride in an area in the first place. So kudos to the Arrowhead Recreation Area. I know the Wheelhouse Bike Shop that's there takes a big part in maintaining and creating these trails. So it's just really cool to see. And in my travels, this is one of the best examples I've ever seen. So it's definitely worth checking out. So even as we keep riding, I just want to emphasize that I think the proof is in the pudding. You know, we're coming up from Long Island, the New York City metro area, and we decided to do this trip pretty much on a whim during Memorial Day weekend. And like I said at the beginning, Claremont isn't a particularly interesting town. Doesn't have a whole lot going on, but between the three of us, we probably spent $1,200 in the town between the Airbnb, which was nice. We got a whole house that had Mount Escutney right across the street, basically. And then, you know, going out to restaurants in the area, paying for gas, getting drinks, yada, yada, yada. And I think that shows the power of having trail systems that really lure people in to areas that you otherwise would have no reason to go to. And it helps the economy, it helps the town, helps these local businesses, and it fosters more progression in young riders that are coming up in the region. You know, how many World Cup riders come out of New England? I have no idea because I can't think of any off the top of my head. So that's another point that you're trying to make with this sort of thing. You know, who's to say we're not going to see an enduro World Cup racer who was born and raised in Claremont, New Hampshire? Because with this place, I could see something like that happening. And as we wrap up our runs at Arrowhead, you know, it makes me kind of upset because this place is so inspiring to get better on the mountain bike. And similarly, as we saw in Quebec, they're doing amazing stuff up there. Now Vermont and New Hampshire having things like this, it's kind of sad that like there isn't more of this in New York and Pennsylvania and New Jersey and Connecticut. You know, we have the similar elevation. We have really technical rocks that could add a very unique element to it. But finding this kind of level of riding is so hard to come by. And I think we're really missing out. I'm just kind of getting on a soapbox and I'm not really getting my hands dirty. But I think a lot of people would love to get some of this kind of thing going in their region and continue the growth of mountain biking. So with that, hopefully you enjoyed watching this video. Next video, it'll be back on my GoPro, so it'll be a little bit better with the stabilization, so I apologize for that. And remember, stay venturing, my friends.